like, everything that we thought was told that is bad for us. It's like, oh, well, actually, here's what really happened, and actually, science was actually saying this, but because people can't, you know, control it, then you know,
It's all about
this ain't gonna
control.
work.
It's all about the control, Brittany.
I know.
Mind control. Do you look into conspiracy theories and shit like that? Is that
I don't go in deep into there, but I know they exist.
come on now? You don't have a rabbit hole you go down?
uh, well, I mean, the rabbit hole is this of like the lack of
Information?
yes, or into yourself. So
Oh, to
like when it
yourself.
comes to the mental health aspect of things, like, and as these are part of the reasons why we're having these human conflicts in the first place, right? Especially like when it comes to like terms of race, for example, if that's a rabbit hole I go down,
Yeah.
why is this taking so long? Or why are we having all of these issues? Why are we arguing about things that seem pretty self-explanatory to me? Or I simplifying it as like people accepting like the apology of like Joe Rogan, and like just seeing like other black people accept, like, know that his character, and realizing that he's human, and and accepting his apology. I'm like, this is really a part of the answer for the whole race thing. Is simply taking ownership and accountability for the things that you are aware of and not aware of, to actually start to make amends.
Yeah.
And the longer you deny something, someone else's reality, the longer the conflict continues. And I just feel like if people would have that ability to just have that self awareness, and to be a little vulnerable, and to look at themselves a little bit, with honesty, that we could have more apologies and more mending, and more like, okay, maybe we can actually move forward here with all of this. Um, so I mean that's one thing, and I just see how that constantly is always a current thing that flows flows back around.
People are fucking messy, man.
Yeah,
I mean, this whole Joe. Yeah. So the Joe Rogan thing's interesting, right? Do you listen to his show?
I feel like I've listened to a couple. I don't actively listen, and I just only gotten like the skinny version of what happened. I didn't even like listen to like the clip that they put together
You
of
didn't see
all
the
of
clip?
the. No, I was like, I don't need to
It's
see
just
it.
it's so interesting because I've watched his show for a long time, for like a
Hmm.
real long time, and it seems that anyone who's mad doesn't actually watch his show or
Mm.
actually consume any of his like they don't actually have an idea of who Joe Rogan is. They just saw a clip and they got really upset.
Yeah.
And that clip was for sure it was for sure an attempt to kind of like it's like a character hit job, right? I mean, the dude has such a large audience.
Hmm.
It started with he had a couple of doctors on the show, Dr. Robert Malone and Peter McCullough, and they go against like the major narrative of you have to go get vaccinated. Vaccines are safe. Everybody should do this. He was just having some nuanced conversations, and that was kind of like what kicked off the situation. First, it was he's spreading dangerous misinformation,
Hmm.
and then a few days later, then that clip comes up, where, granted, you didn't watch the clip of him saying nigger. Man, it's not a good looking clip by any stretch of the imagination. You know, there was a clip at the very beginning of it where he made an awful. There's real no way to even. I don't know how to. Yeah, it's just a bad. It's just not good, right? He's like
Hmm.
we tried. We said we went to go see Planet of the Apes and we walked into Planet of the like that was just shitty,
I heard
right?
that part.
I
Yeah.
always try to take things in because I don't want to just react angrily
Hmm.
because that's what things are trying to get you to do. And I'll actually have another point for that here in a second, but I'm like, yeah, that's just bad. Like, you can't say that. And he apologized, and I think he truly meant it. But whenever they're splicing together all the things of nigger, like I've listened to his show for a long ass time, and I've heard some of those conversations,
Hmm.
and I think he was under the assumption that people would just take what he's saying within context of the entirety of the conversation of like what's actually being said and how it's being said and like what's being discussed, which is why it never came up over the 12 years
Right.
he's been, and then all of a sudden all of this comes up out of nowhere, and it was all obviously everything is taken out of context, but to your point, like he owned his shit. He was like, yeah, like that looked really bad. Like, I'm really sorry about that. Like, that was not my intent. And like, he owned his shit and he apologized. And I think anybody who actually like knows him,
Hmm.
they're all coming out and like that's not Joe Rogan. So it's obviously like an attempt to really silence like a massive force, I think, in culture today.
Hmm.
But I mean, your point is right though. We're so quick to just judge and just lash out and just be angry, and we don't really offer any sort of like understanding or grace for anybody.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to race, but like with everyone has blind spots,
Yeah.
on both sides of the race spectrum. And because we have that, that's the part where we have to give
Yeah.
that understanding and compassion and allow that person to educate themselves and have those different perspectives to be able to see and now create some clarity for a spot that they haven't seen within themselves so that they can make those improvements and you know
Yeah.
do better next time.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that word?
I mean, I get it. I get both sides of it, where we've taken that word that was full of so much negativity to demean us as a people, and it's just like the bully who wants to call you fat, and you take it and you put a spin on it and you make it a positive thing for you. But then at the same time, uh, it's just like you creating humor for something that hurts you, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I still feel like it's a word that we've done that with, but it still has that negative, connotation that comes with it. That's a wound. And that's why Black people don't want other people outside of the culture to say it, because it still is that wound that is still there from, those years ago, but just over time. But I see how it's been used to create more of an empowerment uh, feel behind it, and to kind of like, just take the power back from it. But I think that there's still like aspects for us to heal so that that word does not do as much emotional damage as it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, people say it
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we're
Is
not
that a
around.
word that like just nobody should ever use, like outside of the race?
I mean, honestly, like it doesn't have to exist anymore. We can create something else. We don't have to keep holding on to that either.
Well, it is a word, and like I think in Spanish, like negro, right?
Negro
I
is
mean,
black.
is black, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't really like eliminate the word
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, there's like some sort of variation like out there
Mhm.
associated with the color,
Yeah.
right? But the question is it a word that just it's a hard line? No, like no white people or nobody should ever say it under any circumstance.
I feel like it's gonna be one of those things like to give up ownership of that word
Hmm.
is to like you basically giving up everything else that came with it, like all the pain. And so I feel like
Mm.
it's one of those things that I don't see people ever wanting to allow that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. So yeah, because there's some position of where it's like nobody can ever say that. Only black people can say that. Only we can say that. Nobody else should ever say that. And if you say that, then you're wrong. But then you're also a racist, no matter what the context is. Like just nobody should say it. There's no explanation.
Mm.
I'm I'm a little bit. I don't take that hard stance on it. I try to. I don't know where it is along the way. I just started looking at words as just words. Maybe it was just I think I had an English teacher, and I think it was when we were reading To Kill a Mockingbird because they
Mm.
have nigger in the book, right?
Mhm.
And I believe she read it verbatim, and she went in this explanation, and she was like the sweetest lady. She was that lady. She was that English teacher who changed everybody's life type
Mhm.
shit, and she was just like, listen, she's like. I think this is what she said. I don't know if she said this. I don't want to give her all the credit, but either way,
Mhm.
I arrived to this solution of like words only have as much power as you give them, and if you don't give that word power, then it doesn't have any. But that kind of ties to your point to where like
Mhm.
there's a lot of emotional
Mm-hmm.
trauma there to be healed, which is why there's such an off the cuff reaction, right?
Right, right, right.
Because it's not like, I know for me, it's not like I haven't dealt with racism by any like,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's there. Like, I've been called nigger, like I've had dealt with this shit, but it's one of those things to where for me, I was like, I'm not gonna give that word power. It's just a word. I mean, on the flip side, because there's always it's never, nothing's ever black and white. On the flip side, like, words do have power, like they have meaning, right? The way in which we use them is, it can make or break anything, right? There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
But give if we don't let a word have hold of us in that way, it's like we can choose the power that we give it. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, man, it's just one of those things. I don't know. I always tell my kids that there are no bad words. Is that they're just not always appropriate.
Yeah. Situationally appropriate
Yeah,
is the whole thing.
yeah.
Um,
But that's
yeah.
just such an emotionally charged word.
Hmm. And that's the thing. And like I guess I kind of feel like you about it. I try not. Yeah, there's words that
Yeah,
you choose to give your emotions to it, and you speak power into it.
yeah.
And then there's other words where maybe you need to do the opposite effect because it's starting to disrupt your peace and it's starting to pull things out of you that you don't want to be pulled out of you if someone was to use that,
Mhm.
towards you. One, I had a conversation with a friend just about like that whole feeling of someone pulling that out of you, when it comes to like the whole racism thing. Just the thought of understanding that there's multiple sides of all of this. Has as Black people have experienced racism from their perspective, and they have all this trauma and pain that's been passed down through generations, that white people also too. Maybe they're holding on to a lot of guilt that's being passed down, of avoidance and denial, or maybe even just a lack of awareness, and that gets pulled down too. And so they're like, wait, I'm a good person,
Mhm.
but and you're trying to tell me that I'm this, and no, it's not that. But there's also that piece in within. Now, I don't know their story or anyone else's in particular, but I can just imagine that there's also other negative feelings that come from being on the other side of it, that they have to actually, go through the process to see within themselves, that they have to deal with, to be able to come to terms with, how do I play a role in this? Because we all do. It affects us all. We've lived in this. We're from. This is our country, and this is our history, and it has impacted us in one way or the other. So getting to finding the understanding of how has this impacted me, with me knowing or without me knowing, and how can I contribute to, you know, uh, being a positive piece of part of of the change that needs to happen, of the narrative of both sides of it. So it's not just we need to heal from this; they also need to as well. Just because, you have a person who's pointing fingers at you, saying that you're the cause of this, and later, more and more later generations are like, that wasn't us, that's not us, why don't you get over it? But it's one of those things, like, we didn't also take on the responsibility from our, like, we didn't do any of those things. We're fresh here, but however, we're having to deal with the climate and the culture of what it is now. And so we all have to, you know kind of take ourselves out of it, in the sense of looking at how we fit into the whole bigger picture across the timeline of since the beginning of our start of in the country.
Yeah, you're talking about how we address kind of where we are today in relation to a lot of like the history and the things that are in place, like surrounding race in particular.
Hmm. Just like I've like had like white conversations with like white friends who
Mm-hmm.
are like, and I know that they're good people, but they have blind spots, and until they've acknowledged them or realized that they have them, because they haven't maybe even come in contact where that was to be exposed of that blind spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing a lot of different PDs and developments and things like that, and realizing that, wow, like, I understand that how some people, because of the life that they live, they never had to think of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole topic of white privilege and things like that, I understand how you could go through life and never think that you've had this privilege because you've never seen the opposite or anything different of
Mm-hmm.
someone else living a different way. And so that's just one of those things where like you have to take that time to think about you and the kind of life that you've lived and actually put yourself in some, not put yourself in uncomfortable situations, but explore a little bit of like how other people live and what life is like, and this past your stereotype of what you think and what you get from the media and stuff. And like, it's just like
Yeah.
until you meet somebody who comes from walks a different lifestyle than you,
Mm-hmm.
do you like actually gain a little bit of different perspective,
Perspective,
outside
right?
perspective.
Kind
Yeah.
of broaden your horizons a little bit. Kind of know what you don't know, learn what you don't know.
Yeah.
We're all as ignorant as the day is long. Like there's more that we don't know than we do,
Right. For
right?
sure.
Like ignorance is just not knowing something, right? So I mean, there's a ton that we don't know. But yeah, the issue is whenever you just like you're not open to learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like open to gaining perspective and to seeing things other than maybe the way you've always saw them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the denial piece that I was like, no, no, you like to you just have to open your mind
Yeah.
and realize that well, if you can will not take the word ignorant in a negative way, right? The power of words.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. People don't. I use words. I'm a very literal person, so I
Hmm.
tend to use things in the correct fucking way.
Right.
So, like, ignorant is just it just means not knowing. People mistake ignorant for stupid.
Yeah, but there's a lot of times that's what people do, and
Yeah,
so
so I can't help that you don't know the language well.
yeah.
No, but no, you're right. Let's not take it in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's one of the things. It's just I feel like just a lot of people, they're quick to just want to skip to the denial stage of it.
Yeah,
It reminds me of like the stages of grief. I relate it to like everything. The ultimate goal is to get to acceptance, but you may go through these different emotions about something that conflicts with your inner belief of what you felt is to be true, and then you get some outside evidence, and you can go through these stages of like before you actually can open your mind to accept it. You might,
so
you
what's being denied exactly? Like the part taken, or like what do you think people are denying? Like within themselves, what is it that they're not accepting?
I mean, well, people have an image of how they see themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and so you tell somebody differently about them, the immediate reaction is to
Yeah.
savor that vision that you have of yourself.
uh,
That's who
yeah,
you are.
that's probably like a natural reaction for any human. If you tell them about themselves,
Hmm.
yeah, I think we all get defensive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the goal is to move past that initial reaction
Yeah, that
to take it in a little bit more and
right.
consider it.
Like how can you train yourself to not just be emotionally driven? Like what's your first emotional response to anything? And then get past that.
Yeah. Well, I guess it kind of it's just that whole line of like not taking things personal
Mm-hmm.
about other people. Everything's a projection of their world.
Yeah.
And you have the control and the choice to take what someone is saying
Yeah.
and actually decide for yourself if it's true or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that time period that you take to pause and reflect on it and ask yourself, is there any way that this could be true? And then you follow that thought and find evidence within yourself. But you have to be honest. And you have to be open and enough to have that dialogue within yourself about it.
Right. So you're saying people are ignoring that part. They're not having that conversation with themselves. They're not actually taking an honest assessment. They're not saying, all right, why am I feeling this way about what was just told to me? And is there truth in that?
Yeah, there's a reason why if you would react really big and emotionally to something, it like hurts you and you take
Right.
so much offense. Explore that feeling. Why? You know,
Yeah.
um, that's a lot of times. It kind of reminds me. Verse is like one of those things where if you have a person who is on the wave of like improving themselves, they're very self-aware, so they're always thinking and reflecting about themselves,
Mm-hmm.
their past, and understanding how they are and how they came to be. That if new information came in, because they're already thinking, how can I be better, they're wanting feedback from the outside to say, is this something that I can improve on? So here, let me take this information in. Is this something that is true? And if so, then how can I work to improve it? Because I want to be the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like having that growth mindset for
Right.
yourself of your
Yeah.
personal development.
Yeah, that's a like a key place to be, right? Where you have that growth mindset. I
Mhm.
think so many people are kind of trapped in just this fixed mindset where they just don't feel like everything's scarcity. I don't understand it personally,
Mm.
but you kind of see the two spectrums. It's like people either feel like it seems like people either feel like if you're succeeding then they're failing and there's just not enough for everybody, or some
Mhm.
people just feel like, hey man, there's enough for everybody and we can all win and do this thing and improve and be better.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Mhm.
the scarcity mindset.
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes like a lot of us fall into this perfectionist mindset too.
Yeah.
Like we don't want anything that's going to make us look bad.
Yeah, and we think we're perfect.
Yeah, we think we're perfect, and so
Yeah.
you say something that's saying that we're not. Then all of a sudden you're taking this one piece of information, and it's like, well, if this is true, then it like completely just destroys your whole character. But in reality, because we are imperfect beings, a positive attribute of a person who is an imperfect being is someone who is continuing to work on themselves to grow and be better and not to like stay stagnant, you know, and wherever you are, like you understand that there's aspects of you that can be improved and you're willing and open to do that, to do the work to grow, especially throughout the course of life. You know, we're always evolving, we're always changing, and times are changing too, which definitely forces us to continue to work on ourselves. Like I've had this conversation a lot about just like technology, like the amount of skills that I feel like I had with technology, if I just stuck with that and I was like, all right, this is it, well, I'm going to get left behind
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, everything's constantly moving. So I have to constantly keep reassessing myself and my skills and my mindset on things and making sure that I can continue to evolve with the time as well, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you have to keep up.
yeah.
'Cause, man, I used to work in a call center,
Mhm.
and I'd call people and I'd try to set their medication up on like home delivery. And whenever I'd speak to some older people, you could hear it in their voices. No, or sorry, so you could hear in their voice kind of like how youthful and vibrant they were, or just kind of how just like beat down and kind of just like at the end of their way, like like
Yeah.
are they on their way out type shit.
Mhm.
Like you could hear it in their voice. And one of the things that I always noticed, especially in the much older population, when somebody sounded like they might be 70 or 80 years old and they sounded like they were in their 40s or
Mhm.
50s, they always had an email address. They always did. They're always with what was going on now.
Yeah.
And the people, and honestly, this applied to people who are even much younger, like in their 40s and 50s
Mhm.
even. If they didn't have an email address, they did not sound very healthy. And obviously I'm looking at your fucking medication so I can see if you're healthy or not to a degree. And it was just so interesting. So just evolving and improving and keeping up with the times and like keeping your mind sharp goes so fucking like goes such a long way. And it was just such an interesting. You said you got to evolve. I just thought of that. The people who actually had emails were clearly doing much better than the people who didn't.
Yeah.
And that's just such a small thing.
It's such a small thing, but like we live in a time where all this knowledge is so easily accessible. So it's up to us to actually go out and access the things that we need to stay up, you know, that's going to grow us and so that we can live the most fulfilling life, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
Well, here's the issue, Brittany. Where is the nuance in any of the conversations that we're having or the information that we're getting? It's so hard to find good information or to know what is the good information.
hmm
There's so much misinformation and flat out lies. And anytime you try to have like a nuanced conversation or ask questions about important issues, it's an issue.
Yeah, I know. Man, I guess I don't know. For me, I think about like there were some things that I learned in high school of just like resources, primary resources, secondary resources, just for like the internet of like
Yeah.
at least knowing how to like where to go to get your information,
Mhm.
you know, and how to like fact check, or who are you listening to? How do you check their credentials? Like those are some basic things I would think. Like
Mhm.
before you just go and read this article that's published by who knows wherever, and you get this information, or you're talking to a bunch of bots in the comments or whomever. That also comes from, I guess, certain people's level of knowledge already within that. Um, so unfortunately, that's the game too, is being able to find the actual real true content that's actual factual and real, and not the other stuff that anyone can post and put out there.
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's just, and even, I mean, just to try to get like a complete picture of something. You know what I mean? Depending on where you're going. For example, if you only use one search engine, like if Google's your only search
Yeah.
engine, like that's gonna be different because they curate what you're seeing. If you go to like DuckDuckGo, you're gonna get different results for your searches.
Mm.
So it's like having that understanding of everything. I mean, so much of what we're getting is through a filter.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. And all these little algorithms and whatever.
It's
So,
fucking tough, man. And it's like, man, you try to get both perspectives, but we all have a tendency to kind of lean towards our bias.
hmm.
And then so then how much of what we're getting is just confirmation bias?
Yeah, no. I feel like I think I've watched that Social Dilemma documentary like 4 times.
Yeah.
But just one of the statements, how they said that um, basically your feed, they're giving you the stuff that you like to look at. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of, how do you get out of that? I don't know. For me, I thrive on like making new connections with people, and I'm like, hey, what are you listening to? Who, like, picking people's minds and seeing what kind of things that they're learning about, and finding new things through other people who
Mhm.
I trust, that they get good sources and they're getting good information, and that's how I kind of like expand into new areas.
Yeah.
So again, that's the other part of it, is it's not just all technology, it's also forming relationships with other people.
Yeah, real
And
life connections.
yeah, real life. That's so scary to me when they've been talking about this metaverse and everything, and I'm like, oh man, are we gonna still value human to human connections, or are we gonna
Oh.
literally turn into one of those futuristic movies that we've already seen, where life is
Yeah.
taking place?
Did you see Ready Player One? Did you watch that movie?
Oh, I remember the title. I don't. Give
Okay.
me.
I'm such a nerd. I just rewatch movies all the time. I just watched it yesterday. So it's essentially like it's fucking like in 2040 or something like that. It's not
Mm,
that far off in the future,
yeah.
but it's yeah, it's like, let's just say the metaverse came to fruition
Mhm.
and everybody had Oculus headsets, and then we improved that whole process to where now you have gloves and bodysuits and a treadmill, like an omnidirectional treadmill you can run wherever the fuck you want to
Oh
run,
my
right?
gosh.
Right? You have
Mhm.
all of those things. Like that's what the movie's about. Like it was called this is fresh in my mind now. It's called The Oasis,
Mm.
right? And it was this online world that everybody plugged into, and you can go do anything and be whoever you wanted to, and that's where everybody lived. Everybody spent their money there. It was like as real as it got, pretty much. I don't see why we're not fucking headed that way, especially as you know, as younger generations grow up with this technology.
Mhm.
It's just second nature to them, and then it's just easier to accept, and then they just plug in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's only us who's gonna have that feeling, because we know what life was before that. But these
Yeah.
younger generations, like, this is life for them. This is what they know, and I'm like excited about all the great things that come from it. But then the same way that I felt about social media, I'm like, there's always going to be some drawbacks
There's
and
always a
some
cost.
consequences for it. And I literally did like my research paper on social media's impact on like self-esteem, and like the whole body dysform, like this, like people comparing themselves to
Yeah.
other people on social
Yeah. Was
media.
that dysmorphia? Is that the
Yeah.
word? Body
Hmm.
dysmorphia? We all have a little bit of that too, and social media is probably
Yeah.
making it way worse.
Yeah, because we have access to all these different people,
Mm-hmm.
and we see their lives, and everyone's posting the highlight of their life, but we can't help but to see all these things and have this natural need to compare, and then want to, the phenomenon of keeping up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're never if you're always striving to be something else or somewhere else, like how often are you just happy with who you are and how you are in that moment, you know? So it's led to a lot of depression and low self-esteem and, anxiety and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just wondered, like, what kind of mental health impact is spending time in this world where you can create whatever you want is going to have an impact on, like, people actually coming back to reality,
Mm-hmm.
and how are they going to be able to function there. And
Yeah, I would imagine, unless we get to the point to where we can just download our consciousness to that space, I would imagine it would shorten our lifespan dramatically, right? If we're not actually physically moving and doing things like we should,
yeah.
body's gonna deteriorate pretty
Hmm.
quickly. We're gonna be pretty shitty people.
Yeah, sitting in the house,
Oh my
like,
God, no sun,
yeah.
just everything. Have you tried on one of those Oculus headsets?
One time I went to one virtual reality place. I didn't do it, but I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy.
Those
But
things are fucking sweet. That's what they are. Holy shit, they're cool.
I don't know.
Oh, scary cool.
Yeah.
Once they're able to make that experience indistinguishable or as close to this experience as possible, all bets are off.
I
We're
know.
all fucked.
I know. I watched a
Oh,
lot of Black Mirror, and that's why I'm like scared. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is
we're
coming.
already in it. We all carry our fucking phone everywhere. I
I
mean, we're
know.
rating everything already.
I know.
Like, fuck, man. We're all jumping like fucking little monkeys through hoops on social media trying to get attention, right? So we can all. You see that episode of Black Mirror where they're all like just pedaling on the bike the whole time. They're like
Mm,
pedaling on the bike, like earning money,
mm,
and then you can like spend that money on shit. And eventually, you can save up enough money if you want to. You can try out for like this show, like Who's Got Talent type shit. And then but then you can rise up to like the upper echelons of
mhm,
society, right? And you have
mhm.
the good life now. And that's kind of like what we're all fucking doing, And we're just on the fucking bike, just doing the same shit, all trying to win our ticket.
Yeah.
At
And
least in the social media, anyway.
it's gonna work because, like, instinctually we're competitive beings.
Hmm.
So people are always down for competing.
Yeah,
You know, that's just the natural drive behind,
yeah.
survival of the fittest.
You think we're trying to breed that out of people? You deal with a lot of kids. Are kids as a I'll say as aggressive as they used to be? Are they as competitive as they used to be?
Mm. As far as, like, physically or just,
Yeah. Even yeah, that's a major sign of it is physical, especially amongst boys, but in general.
well, I mean, I think physical, and I think of moving around, and think about the rise in ADHD and being able to sit still. Um, I mean, it is definitely has shown consequences in the kids for sure. Yeah.
What you talking about, like a rise in ADHD?
Yeah, like there's
Yeah, well that's a negative. I'm talking about I've noticed a trend where I don't think it's like especially with little boys. My son's 13.
mm,
I've noticed like it's not. I mean, it's not as good. It's like it's not cool to be masculine anymore.
mm,
Like little boys and aggression is being kind of it's not encouraged at all. Like think about this. If a kid gets into a fight in high school, they're treating that like significant like significant like criminal act. Like you have charges pressed. Kids have always done that, especially boys during those ages of puberty when your hormones are off the fucking charts.
yeah.
Like that's what kids have done always. That's why we have certain sports so that way you can get that aggression out, right? Like football or wrestling, or you can go compete in track, or you know what I'm saying? Like you have these physical tough challenges to kind of channel that aggression and energy
Mhm.
because it's a natural part of human evolution.
Mhm.
And it seems that we're kind of like trying to wean that out of kids essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the mindset of kids has definitely
They're
changed.
softer.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
and so
they,
you
they
will
don't they don't deal with adversity as well.
yeah, definitely not. So I can definitely see how that would decrease if kids don't have that edge about them, and, like, that wanting to, like, be competitive. Um but yeah. I mean, I look at that thinking back to the fact that kids don't play outside anymore.
That's a part of it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
It all plays into, yeah, you talk the rise in AD, just the mental issues, the stress, the anxiety.
mm,
Um, I think the ADD is a different thing. I don't think kids are supposed to be sitting still that fucking long.
no,
Like that's just a
we
whole,
should be more
yeah,
active.
that's a whole other issue. But yeah, it's just what the hell is
Yeah,
going on?
yeah, yeah,
And social media is a big contributor
yeah.
to all of this.
That's the technology piece of it. It's there's like all this great convenience of it,
Yeah.
and the backlash of that is, well, you're not up and moving and doing other things that you normally did before you had that.
Yeah.
And it's more gratifying to watch something or play the games on technology than to go outside and play games,
Right.
So more kids, I would think, prefer to stay in to do that, or play games with they're like, well, I'm playing games with my friends online.
Right.
So
I'm being social.
yeah, so kids metaverse is already in full action.
Right.
With the gaming and everything, and that has taken away from like the social piece. And yeah, so many things are changing, and it's like, how are we it's like, are we just throwing band-aids on this as we go? It's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? um because those band-aids are eventually going to fall off, and I feel like, they're going to have longer term changes. But maybe this is just how people are evolving.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
That's our whole healthcare system is just putting on band-aids. We're never really addressing any root causes.
Mm.
Any actual, what's the actual issue here? I think a big issue is that we view being outside and being in nature as just like an optional thing. It's like just this thing that you can do.
Or
But it's,
dangerous.
or yeah, well, it is kind of dangerous in the fact that we're so far removed
Mm.
from what it means to be a part of nature, to be in like outside in nature,
Right.
that like we forget it is fucking dangerous and it's powerful, and like we're not immortal. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you can put yourself in a bad situation. I'm reading, it's taken me forever because I'm just slacking, but I'm finishing up this book called Deep Survival.
Mhm.
And the first half of the book is essentially talking about like why accidents happen, like why people get into these situations. And then the second half of the book, I think, is talking about like what differentiates people who survive and who don't. So I'm just reaching the second half of the book, but in the first half, when he's talking about like what causes people to get into accidents, like that was a big part of it. Is just like you underestimate the sheer magnitude and force of nature. Like whether it is like you're on a mountain or you're just going hiking. You're talking about people getting lost, like in Hawaii, for example, going hiking. Like they think that it's super safe, but then they just forget that, hey man, even though it's beautiful and there's all this, it's paradise and there's all this resort shit, like no, like once you start venturing off into the jungle where it's thick and shit,
Yeah.
it's not that anymore. Or they were talking about another example again in Hawaii where the waves act differently there because it's like it's an island. It's not like this huge, massive continent
Mhm.
where there's this massive land and it changes the way the water acts. So people who are used to maybe being in water off the coast, say like maybe they're in off the like at the Gulf or the West Coast or East Coast or something like that. It's different than whenever you're out in Hawaii because that's such a small landmass and you're just surrounded by water where you can get taken out into the ocean real easily.
Mhm.
So it's like having this misperception of the actual magnitude of what is actually like what you're putting yourself into. It's like you have this one idea, but it's like no, nature has a completely different
Mhm.
fucking set of ideas, and yeah, it's wild, man. We're so vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah. We've like made things so safe in the space that we work and live, but
Yeah,
definitely haven't done a lot of educating on those other aspects of those other parts unless you do that yourself.
yeah, and nature. I think. I mean, again, I think this was my original point. I think it's not an option. I think it's probably it's really like mandatory as a human, like for our health, to have that aspect. We can't just completely
Mhm.
neglect it. You know what I mean? Like going outside, going and just getting sunlight, getting fresh air, going on hikes, swimming, climbing trees, like just shit outside.
Mhm.
We don't do enough of that.
Yeah. The like people before us, before all of this came to be, like they were really good at that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's good for our mental health and
Yeah,
our physical health.
definitely. I mean, I feel like those are basic level skills that we should have. Like, if all of this technology and everything that man made was to, no longer be of um, resource to you, will you survive? Like, can you figure it out? And I feel like a lot of people would be,
A lot of us are dead.
asked out. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like that about fighting too.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's, well, like, I can just shoot a gun, but if you didn't have a weapon and you had to defend yourself, it's gonna be a lot of people getting knocked out or getting hurt,
Oh yeah.
or people, like talk about, talking stuff on the internet, and then they really can't defend themselves in real life. Like kind of going back to the whole fighting thing, when people used to actually fight, that would solve a lot of issues, right?
It would.
It'll just be done. Like, all right, you lost, and that's
Yeah.
it. But having these other forms of, resources that we've created has made it easier to defend yourself without actually really knowing how to defend yourself, like just you.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I really love about fighting, is like, well, I can add on all these other skills, like learn how to shoot a gun and or using a knife or something, but at the base foundation, I know how to use these weapons
Yeah.
to protect myself if I ever had to,
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to catch me slipping.
Right.
So, I feel like that right there would, just like the mindset that you get from training and fighting, you don't have that need to feel like that you need to proclaim your skill to anyone. I feel like people know how to fight that would chill out a lot of people.
Yeah, because you're used to doing difficult things,
Mm-hmm.
and you know where you line up within like your certain skill set. I think so many
Yeah.
people have just a false perception of who they are and where they fit in the world and what they're actually able to do. It's like, no, listen, you're not a big bad motherfucker. Like, you don't really do anything. You don't train. You don't. Like, how do you actually know? Like, what makes you think that you can just get angry and go hurt somebody? Like, what makes you think that? Because it's not that easy. Like, you got to know what you're doing. You're putting yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
You don't know who knows what anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And that thought process of even putting yourself in a situation is a consequence of that. Like, I'm rational here. Like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to
Yeah.
go and proclaim my dominance over anyone, like if it's
Yeah.
not worth it.
Well, you learn your limitations when you train,
Yeah.
so then you're not as quick to test them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when people don't know them, they don't think they have them.
Yeah.
That's the great thing when you're training. You get that instant feedback. You're like, shit, man, there are a lot of people who can whip my ass. Like, for real.
Humble you up a little bit.
Oh, my God. Doesn't take much.
Mm-mm.
Just someone just a little bit bigger and just a little bit. They only need a little bit of skill. A little skill go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. Can you, so if some shit just, let's just say society was just like, we're like, fuck, we can't go to the grocery store tomorrow. Are you going to be able to make it? Can you farm? Do you know where to get water, Brittney? Could you go kill something if you needed to?
Oh, I feel like I'm so speaking of that, like that's one of my thoughts is I want to go camping and travel in a little RV around the country and stuff. But then I was like, all right, let's be real. I have to educate myself on a lot of things. Like, okay, I need to know about a lot. So it's like there's this whole world, and I'm like realizing like, oh man, I've been really sheltered in that aspect. So honestly, I need to educate myself on things, but I believe in my adaptability anyway.
Yeah.
That if shit hit the fan, that I'm resourceful and I'm going to figure it out regardless.
I like to think that, it also depends on what time of year.
Yeah, that's true.
What if it's winter? Listen,
I'm migrating down south with the birds.
I was outside shoveling the snow the other day, and my hands got cold. I'm like, fuck, I am a pussy. Like, this is weak. I had 2 sets of gloves on, and my fingers hurt because they got so cold. I'm like, I am so weak. This is terrible design. If I didn't have this house right now, what the fuck would I do? I probably would die. I would like to think I'm a capable human being who would make it. But realistically, sometimes I don't know.
Yeah. If you're talking about seasons, I don't know about the winter.
Gotta figure out how to make it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that kind of question puts you in the mindset of like, oh man,
Yeah.
I need to figure that part out.
That's how you start going down that doomsday prepper path.
Uh-huh.
You're like, fuck, I gotta get ready. What if something happens?
I'm gonna start taking ice baths every week,
God,
preparing myself mentally for the
I
cold.
hate the cold so much.
I know.
I like the benefits of ice baths and cold exposure and shit, but I don't think I like them enough to do it regularly. If I'm just being honest with myself, I just like the heat so much more. You can sit me in a sauna for a long time. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Fuck the cold.
You know. So I'm really sad about. I miss California.
Do you? How long you been
The
back now?
weather.
A little over a year.
Yeah, I came back last November, so it's been a little bit over a year.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah.
You think you're gonna dip out again, or you're setting up roots here? It seems like.
Uh, well, I kind of feel like I'm just going with the flow, and life has brought me back here, and this is
Yeah.
always home. And I've already have a lot of roots here, just
Mhm.
because um my I really do feel like I do at the end of the day want to be somewhere warm. Like settle down somewhere warm.
Mhm.
And I've been going down to Texas a lot. I like it down there.
You gonna move to
So
Houston?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I went to California and it was lovely. It's really nice, but realistically, I can't afford that,
It's crazy out
and
there.
I wouldn't want to buy land or house there. It's not. I get more bang for my buck somewhere else.
Mhm.
It's a nice vacation place,
Oh yeah.
but so I guess I'm still on this little journey of like where do I feel like I fit? Where is my space
Mhm.
outside of St. Louis? So that's in the future. So for right now, I am here, and so I've thought about many different things like staying here, being somewhere else, flowing back and forth.
Mhm.
Um, I've thought about how I would like to establish things here too and be somewhere else as well. Like that's not out of the picture as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the time while I'm here, this is me basically starting the things that I want to do here. Um, with still the option and opportunity to replicate that and be somewhere else. And I kind of feel like time will dictate that. And where I am now is like, it's pretty good to be somewhere where I am connected, though, so I still have support. It may not be what I want, like as my first thought of where I would like to be, but um, it's good. I can't complain. I still have what I need.
It's a journey.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I've grown to appreciate this place a whole lot more after the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, one, just from a financial standpoint,
Hmm.
it's so affordable to live here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I thought I was going to move to Austin,
Hmm.
and maybe I'll still like we'll get a spot down there and do like the snowbird thing or something
Hmm.
and commute because I really do love that town.
I was thinking Austin too. That was one of
Austin
my
is fucking
spaces.
awesome.
Hmm.
So I went and visited Austin for the first time. I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago now, and I was like, "Fuck, this place is so cool!" Like it just felt right immediately.
Hmm.
And that same year, I went back like 3 more times like that year just because I loved it so much
Hmm.
just to visit, and every time I went, I made new friends and I started to build like some community down there, and I know people down there now, and it's a really cool place, and from a cost perspective, it's actually pretty similar to here. So I was actually kind of mad at myself because I lived in San Antonio for a year, which is only like an hour away,
Yeah.
and never did I visit Austin. And they have a huge festival there. They have a couple different festivals, but they always have South by Southwest there. You
Mm.
familiar with this?
Mm.
It's just like a huge festival. They have like movies and music, and it's like one of the biggest festivals that there is in the country.
Cool.
And so I was kind of mad I didn't go there, but that place is just so fucking cool. It's good vibes. You did visit? Have you been there
Hmm.
yet? Yeah. What'd you think?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah.
So like I've been to Houston
Mhm.
and I've been to Austin and I've been to Dallas too, but like Houston just gives me like a bigger city vibe, but then like Austin gives me like city and like landscape and like culture and
There's a
like
lot of green.
yeah, the green, and that's appealing to me because like
Growing up here.
yeah, 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 it's like I like the outdoors, the nature, but then I also like the city, and so I feel like that was appealing to me, and I like the fact that they're all of those other cities are close as
Mm-hmm.
well, so you can
Yeah.
always travel. And so
Yeah. Austin's not like the rest of Texas. It's like kind of like a little piece of the West Coast.
yeah,
Stuck in Texas. It's not like Texas. Like if you go to Dallas, Dallas is way different. Like to your point, Houston's probably way different. I've never been to Houston.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought I was gonna for sure move down to Austin. I was like, oh, for sure. Like once the kids are a little bit older, for sure gonna move down there. Then Rogan moves there, and a whole bunch of people move there. Not just him, but just you see a massive influx of people from
Mm.
California moving to
Yeah,
Texas as a whole,
yeah,
all over Texas, but
yeah.
especially Austin, just because I think it probably feels more like home to them.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk is moving. I think he did move to Austin, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you just see this huge influx of people
Yeah,
moving to Texas. I'm just like, fuck.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm like, it's like, well, the cat's out the bag.
I know, right?
I don't want to go there anymore necessarily.
Yeah,
So I don't even know if it's as affordable to go there, like whenever I do want to go there. So
yeah.
we'll see. So I appreciate this place for the affordability of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like it's kind of like a little bit of a gym in that it's central. So you can, at least here in St. Louis, we have an international airport. So you can go anywhere in the country at least
Yeah,
pretty fucking easily.
yeah.
And then, yeah, I just really appreciate the nature, So I'm really thinking about just trying to get some space,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe like a well, some chickens,
Yeah.
learn how to farm a little bit. Not a
Mhm.
lot,
Mhm.
grow some tomatoes and some, I don't know, onions and shit. Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on all those points. I guess the only thing that's not favorable about being here is the winter.
It's brutal.
I
But
just don't like being cold.
I feel like it's gotten shorter and shorter,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the fall isn't bad anymore. The
Yeah.
fall is like non-existent.
Yeah.
The winter kind of sucks though. I don't like the short days.
Yeah.
I wish we'd stop changing the clocks. I think if we quit changing the clocks, that'd go a long way.
Yeah. I don't like this whole dark super early stuff. It's just it's morbid.
Yeah. But as we get, so how like when you get older, your
Mm.
perception of time also changes. So like when you're a kid, a year is a greater percentage of your life, right? So a year seems to take longer, but as we get older, a year is less and less percentage.
It's
So
fine.
shit just flies by, right? So
Mhm.
I'm kind of applying that to the winter. As I'm getting older, the winters just go by quicker and quicker,
Yeah.
and the short days fucking fly by now. It's like we're already getting longer, and I think we're like a month away from it getting dark at like 7 o'clock. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, man,
We're already there.
I know. It's like as I'm getting older, I'm like, man, is this place really that bad? Like we
Yeah.
have an amazing restaurant scene in St. Louis. Come on now, one of the best in the country. Like for real. I talk about it all the fucking time. I'm gonna have some foodies on because I can just go in on the food here. I don't know. As I'm getting older, I'm like, man, St. Louis is really rad. It really is.
Yeah,
Not to talk you out of leaving.
well, I won't be leaving anytime soon. But no, St. Louis definitely has a lot of great things that we don't talk a lot about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really at the end of the day is just the cold. That's the only thing
The
really
cold is the
negative I have to
worst.
say.
It's the worst.
And the potholes, but
Yeah, yeah. We went to Florida, and I've been there a few times. I don't like that place. I don't know, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because we're talking about like you don't like the cold, and I was just thinking, oh, well, what else is a warm weather place? And a lot of people are moving to Florida. I think Florida's had like 300 plus thousand people move there in recent months, and I don't really think I had a point other than just that place sucks.
yeah,
But it's nice weather.
yeah. I when I think about the places that I wanted to go, Florida wasn't one of them. Like,
Not even for training.
not to stay.
Some of the best training
I know.
you can get is in Florida.
I know. I thought about it, but then I liked California more.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
is
Better vibes.
well. I also
Not better beaches though.
no, you don't think so. Well, I guess I was also thinking about like, oh well, there's a lot of hurricanes that happen over there. It's a lot of rain.
Yes.
so-
yeah, that's why Florida sucks. Hurricane. It's not it's not if, it's when. You will get hit by a
Mhm.
hurricane every year.
Yeah.
Some of them are gonna wipe everything out. People are weird. Why do we do that? We move to places and we build civilization in a place we know is going to get hit by something. New Orleans is a great example. Florida is a fantastic example. Without a doubt, you're going to get hit by something
Yeah.
every year. Houston's a great example of that. They get hit all the time by shit. I think it's a little less, but they get hit.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? And then we're like, this is a crazy disaster. I can't believe this is happening. This is so fucking awful. Yes, it's horrific that that's happening to people. Absolutely. But what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, I know.
What did you think? And also, the earth is always shifting, changing, moving, like constantly. Sinkholes happen, earthquakes happen. Nothing is stagnant. We act like things are just supposed to be stagnant.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Humans are weird, man.
That's us just trying to, feel like we have some control over something and it gives us a little bit of peace. And we just rather just put that on the back shelf until we have to deal with it, I definitely chose, that was one of my thoughts. I was like, well, I think I'd rather deal with an earthquake than the hurricanes.
Fuck
Because,
yeah.
there was some big earthquakes that happened when I was in college.
Really?
I never experienced that before.
What was it like?
Man, there was one time where we were at the gym and like all of the heavy bags were swinging. Like it was just,
Oh wow.
I was like, whoa,
You just scared?
And I was just like, oh snap, And then,
Like this is real.
yeah. And then there was like our whole, what you call it? Chandelier would just like be spinning and spinning and spinning.
Oh fuck.
Like, but that was the worst that it was. There wasn't any damage or anything, fortunately enough. But
Yeah.
but to see that, I'm like, yo, the earth is moving.
Yeah.
The earth is moving. If you didn't realize that the earth is moving.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of spoiled here in the Midwest in that we get bad shit here too. At least here, but there's been some pretty horrific tornadoes.
Yeah, I feel like that's our little.
But that's all we get. And that's not even always guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen every year. Like it will happen again, but just some places are worse. Like we're not right in like Nebraska or Kansas where they're for sure getting hit with tornadoes all the time. We're in a good spot.
Yeah.
For real.
Adding up all your points here.
I think
And the winters could be worse.
It's just all. It's just you could be in Chicago where it's cold as my god.
And the wind.
And the traffic.
Yeah, our
Oh,
traffic's not.
we don't
not
have bad
here.
traffic here. See, listen,
You can get everywhere in about 20, 25 minutes.
easy. And even when there is traffic, it's nowhere near as bad as the worst traffic or the like light traffic in like LA or.
Oh, for sure.
Even when I was in San Antonio, everywhere you went, traffic was bad.
Yeah, that was one thing I really didn't like, having to like park 3 blocks down from our apartment because there was never parking because it was so overcrowded. Yeah, and traffic. I was like, I miss pulling up to my parking spot in front of my crib.
Yeah, I miss being able to make a 5-minute run in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah,
Like shit, man. Yeah, LA's cool though. You were in LA, right?
I was in like
Or
Orange County.
Orange County, so like
Yeah.
south,
Mhm.
a little south of that. Yeah, they have nice beaches there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're like,
Really
oh,
nice.
they don't have nice beaches.
Yeah. What do you mean? That
Because
beach
as a
was
whole,
nice.
because listen, if you drive up and down that motherfucking coast of California, there's not nearly as many nice beaches to choose from as if you go like up and down the coast in Florida.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because look, when I went to LA I only went to LA one time. As soon as I got there, I got my rental car, which was a van because I was sleeping in it for the week. I popped some acid and I fucking hit the Pacific Coast Highway and just drove north for like fucking an hour and a half. Just drove. And then I drove back down. I like to explore. One of my favorite things to do is just like drive and get lost. Like growing up in Jeff City, my friend and I, we would just smoke weed and just drive backwoods roads and just do that. So I really enjoy doing that and just exploring. Driving up and down that coast, there was not a lot of places I could just easily stop. And the beach was just fucking awesome. It was like a lot of rocky beaches, not super nice sand.
Yeah.
Like there's beaches, it just wasn't, I'm just saying, it's just not as nice as in Florida.
Well,
That's the only thing I like about Florida, by the way.
yeah, it's the beaches.
That's it.
Well, I guess maybe I was fortunate that.
You were in a good spot.
Yeah, I was in a good spot because
'Cause you were
Newport Beach was right there.
South Florida.
Yeah.
So,
The south, going towards San Diego. So like I would go to Newport Beach a lot, which was kind of like right
Yeah.
by Irvine and that area,
Yeah.
Newport City.
see, because that's when you're transitioning into like South America, like you're getting into like Mexico and shit, right?
Yeah, closer down to like San Diego, and then like
Yeah.
I went down to San Diego a
Because San
couple
Diego's
times.
like 30 minutes from Mexico.
Yeah, I like San Diego. If there was a place that I would move to in California, it would be there
Hmm.
before LA or anywhere else. I would go there.
That place is sweet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of green vegetation there.
Yeah, so it's a
Traffic's
lot of
not
great
nearly as
stuff.
bad.
Mhm.
Fuck yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Great training too.
yeah, for sure. Trained down there for a little bit. That was good. That was fun. I want to go back. I do want to plan a trip back there to visit.
Oh, it's a great place to visit.
Yeah.
It really is. Do you have your vaccine?
Mhm.
So yeah, so you can go places and do shit there
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you have to have a vaccine to do anything there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to pry.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, people. If you just put me on your list, all the anti-vax. Everybody, see, that's another divide.
I don't know why. See, that's one of the things. It's why can't we just have a nuanced conversation? It's
Yeah.
because here's the thing, the bio variability amongst people is vast. We're not the same. So
Yeah.
what works for you is not going to work for me. Like how you react to something, I might react differently to.
Mhm.
There's no one answer really, and to not be able to have a nuanced conversation and to get all the facts, like that's where it gets crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
It's like we're just people, man. Like let's just have conversations. We don't have to be divided over this situation.
Yeah. Or just like respect people have their own perspective and opinions, and you don't have to try to change it or
Yes.
shame them for having the opinion that they have.
Yeah.
Or they're doing what they feel is best for them.
Right.
But I guess when people overextend and want to tell other people what they should do with their bodies,
What you should do, yeah.
yeah, that's where
It's like fuck, man.
that's a whole thing too. If you can talk about a whole bunch of other stuff about that, and that was a little conflicting too, because that was a thought that I had. Initially I was like, oh man, I knew we would get to this point where it was going to be one of those government things like you have to take this, because I've been a person who got the flu shot one time in middle school.
Hmm.
I got sick, and then I never gotten the flu shot since.
Yeah, I don't get the flu shot, especially
Or
once I
any of that
learned.
kind of
Once,
stuff.
yeah, once I learned more about it, and you learn about I don't know history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I always felt like I had a really good immune system. So
Yeah, natural immunity is not real though,
yeah,
which is such a weird statement. We make terms like natural immunity. That's just like a new term, right? I mean, nature provided us all with an immune system to help us deal with things that we interact with every day.
right.
You have an immune system. That is a fact. Because of that, you have immunity to things that we come into contact with that you don't even know about. So when you say it when you break it down, it's like, yeah, you have natural immunity to things. We have a natural immune system, but that's all we're just saying. You have an immune system.
Right.
That's so like what is so polarizing about having an immune system?
I mean, it comes down to words. People like words, and people like to give things labels and names.
Yes, and that's the problem because words, the meanings have changed. Like things morph and ideas change, and I think they'll change and you're not even aware of them. And then like I'll use a word like ignorant, and then but to everybody else that means stupid, and it's just like where did the disconnect happen? But it happened.
Yeah.
It's like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like also like words that you've grown up using, or people around you've used, and however they used it is how you learned it, even if the real definition is something different.
Right, which is where intent comes into play sometimes. I think another word, and maybe you feel differently about this, I think people are too sensitive about the word retarded. I think when you use it in the wrong way, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But if like it's a medical term. Things can be like retarded, like slowed down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we used it differently. We changed it. Like we changed the whole parameter of that word.
Yeah.
And it's another trigger word for people.
Yeah. But I think it's because people used it in a negative way. And
Yeah,
that's why they were like, okay, we need a better word.
Yeah.
Because people abused the word and used it as a derogatory thing.
It morphed.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and then it's like one of those things, oh, but you better not slip up and say it or else.
Well, it's weird as a guy because, like, growing up with my friends, we would just talk shit. Like, we're just talking shit. And there was nothing, like, real malicious, but we'd be like, oh, you're retarded. Like, you're being retarded right now. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But it's not it's not a, again, I think that's where context and intent comes into play, because it's not like a malicious thing to where we would use that word towards somebody who is actually having like mental
Mhm.
retardation, like they were, they're mentally disabled. Like, why would you use that for somebody? And I think that's where we lose grace with people.
Yeah.
It's like, we're all humans, and say you did use it in a horrific way, and like you were just fucking wrong. Again, back to the beginning of the conversation, like,
Mhm.
okay, can you like assess that honestly and like own it and apologize and do better next time? And then can you also allow grace to somebody who did do that and took ownership?
Yeah.
It's like, where's the nuance in everything?
Yeah. I mean, as former like elementary school teacher, like that's what life was in the classroom. That's basically the foundation of how we solve our issues is having that same cycle of someone said or did something not so nice or kind. We have a conversation about how that made the other person feel.
Yeah.
That person looks inside themselves and reflects and expresses how they realized that they made that error. They apologize. And usually they try to do something to, make up for it, and they go on to be better and not do that again or use a more appropriate word, things like that. And that's like what I would do in the first grade classroom. I'm like, yo, we could do that as adults as well.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things like that. That's the process. And but I feel like we forget that
Mm-hmm.
as adults, and that just doesn't happen. No one wants to take ownership because of their, they don't want to destroy the image of the person that they feel that they are, because they can never be wrong or make a mistake or, things like that. And that's kind of going back to the whole denial piece. Like, can you accept that maybe sometimes you may, if, that you'd say or do something that was a blind spot for you, that it hurt someone? Can you take the time to reflect and acknowledge that? Or are you going to keep doubling down? You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just keep doubling down, you
Doubling
know?
down. Fuck. Deny, deny, deny.
Yeah.
Shit, you get caught. What Shaggy say? It wasn't me. Holy shit. We're living in strange times, Brittany.
I know.
We're living in strange fucking times. I try to just put my head down and just like focus on what I'm doing, but you can't be ignorant to what's going on in the world. And I don't know if it's just because we're getting older, but it almost just feels like if you do, things are going to change so fast, you're going to get left the fuck behind. And before you know it, you're going to be living in an entirely different world than what you thought you were in.
Yeah, for sure. This literally kind of where I am right now, where I'm realizing, like, yo, because I'm not really the tech person
Uh-huh.
or finance, and or I definitely limit my news intake, and I just go into my little world of what I'm doing, and then I realize, like, yo, I don't know anything what's going on out there, and I feel like that this is not a good thing for me.
It's tough. It's tough. The world, and what fucks me up is how, again, I keep, it's like beating a dead horse, but like how like divisive we're getting,
Mhm.
and and on both sides, and it's like nobody sees it.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking? So I liken it to, I don't know if you're seeing what's going on now. I think Joe Biden, the administration, just passed some measures. I think they're actually really good measures whenever I'm like really looking into them, where they're basically trying to do some harm reduction with through like with drugs. So they're talking about, handing out like fentanyl testing strips and syringes
Mhm.
and safe smoking kits, which is where the shit's coming in, because in there's no actual, from what I could tell, and maybe I'll do some more research, but it I don't think there was actually any like wording to say that there are going to be pipes inside of these safe smoking kits, but we can probably assume there's probably they could be in there.
Mhm.
So now the entire, like right side of the political spectrum is saying Joe Biden. So can I take my mask off to smoke my crack pipe, or Joe Biden wants to give out crack pipes, and I'm just like, you guys are equally as bad as the other side of the aisle who are saying that ivermectin is a horse dewormer, because you're not actually educating yourself on what's happening, and you're just spewing out propaganda that polarizes. It's like you're just equally as bad. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, can
Mhm.
we just look at things on a spectrum and actually take in all the facts?
Yeah. No.
It blows me away.
Yeah.
Have you kept up with this? Have you seen this?
No, I definitely saw that the headline or whatever, and I was
Oh,
like,
handing out the crack pipes.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
just
sure
saying
you
little
saw
jokes and
people.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people circulating it. That's equally as bad as saying ivermectin is horse dewormer because it is nowhere fucking near that. Do you remember that circulating too?
Mm.
You never heard people say that about ivermectin?
Mm-mm.
Yes, you have. Never.
See, this is what I was saying, that I've been
You're
in
under
this
a
little.
fucking
So I
rock.
am coming out of the rock, and I am now.
So now you're learning. Yeah,
I'm putting
exactly.
myself out there to like, because at first I was like, the news is just too much. Like, I don't want to know about all this stuff because it's like the
No.
news is hardly ever good. And so
Yeah,
for
what's it
me,
adding?
I've just been like, because I've been in like survival mode and just like needing to, take care of my basic functions. What's going on in the world, I get, get the
Yes.
minimum that I need. I'm never really deeply invested into it. But now as I look, I'm like, I'm like, okay, I can't stay in that kind of mindset because the gap and the divide is going to keep growing, and I'm
Yeah.
going to get really far away from it, and it doesn't. So I have to.
Dude, it's crazy out here. You just
Yeah.
made a really good point. I was just listening back to Rogan. I was listening
Mhm.
to a conversation he had recently with Jordan Peterson. And Jordan was talking about, I think they were talking about in reference to um, just like, maybe it was like how we address the environment or some of these other greater social issues.
Mhm.
And Jordan was saying that if we really want to address that, if the people who say they want to fix that issue really wanted to fix that issue, what they would do is we would pour as much energy and money in as possible, as fast as possible, into rising like our lower class people. So anyone who's like poor or broke, like getting everybody as rich as possible, basically. Because you just said a statement where you've been in survival mode so long you can't focus on anything else.
Yeah.
We're living in this fucking state where so many people are in survival mode. You
Yeah.
can't see past your day to day.
Mhm.
How can somebody who's worried about where their next meal is coming even give a fuck about if their neighborhood looks nice?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how
Mhm.
can you do that? You can't. So if we really wanted to address all these other issues, and if we really wanted to be the best, especially here in America, we would work on getting everybody as rich as fucking possible. We would pour all of our energy into at least getting everybody up to a livable fucking place so you're no longer in survival mode.
Yeah.
And then now you can start addressing these issues. It's like, can we actually make progress forward in any of these areas that we want to make progress forward when everybody's in survival mode, white or black? Because I think a lot of the issue, what people are dealing with, is economic. Like, we're all so fucking poor and we're all trying to survive that how can you see past your own struggle? Because the poor white person in a fucking trailer park, they think that because they're poor and they're dealing with things that is the same as the poor black person who's in the inner city, they think it's the same. Where, yeah, you are both dealing with economic issues, but there's this whole other issue here of race that you don't have to deal with, but you can't see that blind spot, right? Because you're dealing with. So it's like, if we can just get every fucking buddy on a place past survival, we can actually probably start making some fucking progress.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Um, I was just talking about this. It's like the whole Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs, and how it ties into like if people are like actually having a growth mindset and pouring into themselves and working towards their better selves. You can't really do that if you're at the most basic level of that pyramid of basic needs, which is physiological needs, which is shelter,
Shelter.
food, water, things like that. If you spend your energy only right there, how do you ever get the opportunity to work on the other needs that you need in your life that's beyond that, that's going to actually elevate you to be able to create more possibilities for yourself? It's really hard. And so and so that mindset that people are in, they stay there in that survival mindset, not able to really find the point or the energy to invest into what's going on to the world unless it impacts them, you know, directly. But yeah, you would think that if we wanted to be the best, Like,
It'd be best for the whole world too.
yeah, that we actually take care of our people. I always feel like, man, we need some like more humanitarians and less people who care about money. Because I feel like that's the individualism that kind of comes forth where like the thought isn't about how do we just grow, like care about our people. We're too divided to care,
Hmm.
We're taking sides and worrying about ourselves, and people are getting left here. And while the race continues and grows, but not realizing that, like, this is a bad look for us,
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's by design, right? I
yeah,
mean, if you look at the political class, it's a class of people. Like once you become a politician, you're in a new class, right? You're no longer a civilian,
yeah,
right? You're in a new class of person. So that's a class. And then if you want to look at the upper echelons of society, of all around the world, because that's a small population, but especially here in America, like that's its own separate class of people. And the the one percenters, if you will, with the political class, they're just running the show.
yeah. Imagine if the majority who are not within the 1% actually had strong mental health and support, and they weren't surviving, and they had resources and options and possibly imagine all those brains
Yeah.
doing something that's going to benefit our country and the world. And you know what I mean, like
That's what they're
how,
scared of.
yeah,
They don't want us to come together.
yeah, because it'll be more of like we'll have more people who it'll be the people who actually control,
Yeah.
which how it should be, right?
This is
That's what the
100%.
democracy
That's what it's supposed to be.
is. So yeah, so we're fighting that whole system there.
Yeah.
But I know we can talk about these things. That's kind of like why I disconnected from it, because I see these things and I'm like, they don't want that.
Yeah. And
Because I'm like, if I can figure out what needs to happen, I'm just me. Are you trying to tell me they haven't figured this out yet? They
mhm.
don't want it to happen.
It's disheartening, right?
Yeah, it's
Because,
very.
but here's the thing: when people, like you say, it's just me, right? When somebody's who is just you, right, and they figured out that they do have an impact and they can do something, they're scared of those people, right? I mean, um, well, fuck, I'm mad. I'm drawn. What was the kid's name who started the Black Panthers? He was like 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
super charismatic. The CIA fucking killed his ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they deliberately killed because he was a powerful voice who realized that we can come together and make some fucking changes. Like they do not want that.
Yeah,
Yeah, on both sides of the party. Like
you see that.
they're all the same. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's wild.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you play the game? It's like, I'm hoping that at some point in time there will just be this slow, gradual awakening. Because in my mind is like, if people as just individuals just do their work individually, to where there doesn't need to be that one person who has to go and gather up all these people to do something,
Hmm.
to put that target on that one person. If everyone is just doing the work
We all do it.
holistically,
Yeah.
then there's no one person to pinpoint, but we're all
Yeah.
growing in silence
Right.
together to actually do better,
Right.
you
Yeah, you
know?
would hope whoever that lead, because there's always going to be a leader that evolves,
Yeah.
but you'd hope whoever that leader is can spark enough just belief in everybody that even if they're not there, the movement continues, right? So we all
Yeah.
go. The thing is, man, these motherfuckers are smart.
Yeah, I know, right?
They play the long game.
Yeah.
I don't know what your opinion is on masks, but there's a lot of places where you don't really have to wear them,
Mhm.
but they still require them in schools. A lot of the schools.
Mhm.
How is that not the long game? Like you're training kids to be comfortable wearing masks all the time. That's the next generation, so they'll be more susceptible to go along with the flow when they try some shit later on again down the road. You think about that? I think about that. They're training. Think about. So I feel somewhat, and I've noticed this with my own kids. Like my daughter feels weird not wearing her mask certain places, and it's only been a short time. She's lived life a lot longer without one,
Mhm.
and but she's 11. Think about these kids who are young, in like elementary school growing up with this. How much development is getting fucked up?
Oh, a lot. Like this period of time is really, really taking a toll on kids.
We're fucking kids up big time. The
Hmm.
development, like they don't know how to read facial expressions.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not good.
it's terrible. We're creating a new type of person,
Hmm.
right? And who's going to be more susceptible to kind of play along whenever these elites try to do some more shit. Because who's to say that they're not going to do some shit again? Because they for sure will, right? I mean, they just locked down the whole fucking world.
Yeah.
Think about for real.
Hmm.
It sounds like conspiratorial whenever I say it, but I'm just saying what happened.
No, I definitely have also heard that too from like, other kids of how they feel more comfortable wearing masks. I can hide behind my mask. And that feeling of like
You
you
can't.
don't feel comfortable presenting your face.
Yeah, like my daughter, we always put her on the spot. She's already on the spectrum a little bit,
Mhm.
but when we go out, it's like I need you to look at people in the face and give them your order. Like if we go ice skating, tell them what size skates that you need. You want food, tell them what you need. Like I'm not going to order for you, and you need to look at them in the face and you need to speak loudly. And I know you can do that because I hear you fucking yelling around the house. So when I need you to speak up, you got to speak up because this is an important skill in life. You got to look at people in the eye and you need to fucking talk.
Yeah.
Kids are losing it.
Yeah. And I forgot what I was listening. I was listening to some podcast, but they were talking about literally how things are so convenient now that we've created ways to just get what we want without even having to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the DoorDash. Get your
Everything.
food, drop it on the front of your door, and you don't ever have to have that
Well, we made that
person to
more
person.
acceptable during the lockdown, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just leave it there. Well, I'll get it
And
later.
now the metaverse.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk is trying to do Neuralink where he taps into your brain.
Ah,
And so if you had it and I had it, we can communicate through thinking. So you would be able to clearly read my intentions. I could
mhm,
just tell you what I'm thinking, as opposed to like, how when you have an idea but you don't know how to put it into words.
mhm.
I could just boom, clear.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, everything. So he's like he's turning us into robots. He's like augmenting reality. So we'll still be in this world, but we'll be augmented. So think about this. There's going to be early adopters. There's going to be a whole subset of people who can afford it, who are going to get that first.
Right.
And then you're going to create a big fucking gap because companies are going to hire them first
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
because they're going to be advanced. They're going to learn faster. None of the clunkiness of being a human is going to be taken out of it's all going to be gone.
I know. That's kind of like my vision as well as like in the whole like with everything that's going on. That's why I've been trying to learn more about like the whole crypto and you know that whole tech world of money, and like I can visualize seeing like this takes off and now people with money and wealth, they're now spending their money in this kind of way, and now the value of the dollar and coins are like peasant.
It's already that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like you're gonna see that divide even more. People who are still using this form of currency, and now people who are here, and it's just taking off. That's why. That's
Yeah. Or like, so when Homo sapiens kind of started really taking off from like Neanderthals, for example, right?
mm,
That's where we're going to be at. We're going to have a whole new subset of people who are way more advanced. And it's like all these dumb, clunky people, fuck them.
yeah. It's kind of scary to think about
Oh,
this.
fuck.
Like,
I think about it. Hopefully it doesn't go there. But I can see, I always think a worst case scenario. I'm like, everything's a slippery slope. Like, where is it going?
yeah. Well, maybe I feel like, there would be a dip or a great the separation, but after like our generation isn't up or gone, and then the new kids, because they're falling right into the tech world, that maybe that's where they catch back up because they're able to like look at all these young kids who are finding ways to like make mad money and inventing things and going to school way early and doing very
Yeah.
well.
Kids aren't as smart as they used to be.
Yeah.
No, I think they are actually. I think we're progressively getting smarter, but we're trying to. I think some of social media is trying to dumb them down, right? Like you look at TikTok, which is probably the number one app amongst these kids.
Yeah.
The TikTok here is different than the TikTok in China. Like in here, it's always the stupid, outrageous videos, the dance videos, all the crazy, nothing that's actually important
Mm.
that gets highlighted. Like that's what makes you super famous over here. Over there in China, the things that get highlighted are like like science and math and like achievement and things that are actually going to progress society. Like that's what gets highlighted and goes viral over there. So the
Yeah.
kids are actually doing something to go forward. And not to mention, they can only be on it for a certain amount of time. Like you can't be on it after certain hours. I don't think you can even get on it during the week. I think it's only on the weekends.
Mm. Well, well, what we see and what we get here is a reflection of what the people here enjoy and want to see.
Well, also, is that warfare, sort of, or is that like China trying to like make America even a little bit dumber? You ever think about that?
I mean,
Why
I
would they
don't.
not do it?
It kind of goes back to the part of, do we even want our people to be better?
No, but they for sure don't.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't
So
matter what they want because we don't even want that for us, it seems, you know?
yeah,
So it's like they don't probably have to do that much work in the first place,
yeah,
you
no,
know? It's
yeah,
not like we're actually trying to, hey,
be
take some
better.
notes from from China and do, push that kind of stuff out there because we're not,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so,
but here's the thing: if you start talking in like a competitive way against China, then all of a sudden you're racist. You don't like Chinese people.
oh no. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't think of it like that. I'm more of a, I like to share information. Like when I think of when a group over here is doing something I want to know, I'm like, oh
Yeah,
shoot, how you guys doing that? Oh,
yeah.
can you share that with me?
Well, it's like,
Because
oh,
let's can
you're
we
talking
share
shit on
good stuff?
China. What's wrong with China? You don't like Chinese people? What's wrong?
I'm like, I'm trying to collaborate,
I'm just saying.
but we're too divisive
Exactly.
and competitive between each
People get
other.
weird.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
life could be different,
Yeah. But
but
could it? Life's pretty cool though.
I don't know.
It could be worse.
Or you can think about like just personalities and all the different kinds of personalities amongst people,
Yeah.
that there's always going to be those kind of people who are in those positions because that's what their personality gravitates to.
Yep.
And even if we want to foresee this world with everyone being collaborative and peace, love, and joy and harmony, it's never going to be that way because there's always other people who don't fall into that whole spew. So it's always going to be
Yep.
there.
That's
There's
the
this
reality
group
of the
people.
world, right?
Yeah. And guess
We,
I'm gonna have to work on accepting that.
well, we try to nerf proof everything. Like there's no risk involved, and everybody should just be peace, love, and happiness,
Yeah.
and nobody and everybody's a good person.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great people. However, there are also people who will murder you and take whatever that they want. And there have been people who have been driven by conquering
Mhm.
forever,
Yeah.
forever of all races.
Yeah.
Genghis Khan, the Persians, the Ottoman Empire, right? I mean, there's just
Mhm.
people who are just driven to fucking conquer. The
Yeah.
Vikings did it. Like people just want to conquer. Some people do,
Yeah.
right? If you look at the Middle East, there have been tribes that have been warring with each other for thousands of years.
Yeah. That these same kind of people show up in every kind of every culture.
Everywhere.
It's not just.
Exactly. People, there are just bad people out there, or people who are just more aggressive, more adept to just do horrific shit and don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have
Mhm.
you read there's this book called The Sociopath Next Door? Have you ever read it?
No.
Just talking about
Sounds interesting
it
though.
is, it is. It's just talking about, just the amount of sociopaths that we interact with on a daily basis.
Yeah, and you ain't even know it.
Yeah, you don't know it. And here's the thing though, we're all sociopathic to degrees, right? You kind of have to be. So for example, let's just say you're a boss at a job and you have to fire people. Well, you have to have a certain level of what is the word? Sociopathic tendencies. We'll just say that to be able to do that, right? To be able to go fire somebody and know that there's going to be pretty hard consequences for them, and then still go about your day. But you got to do it.
Yeah. Or being in a position to where that's a part of your job, because for some person who's like really empathetic and they're having to constantly make decisions like that, that's going to conflict with
Who they
who
are.
they are.
Yeah.
So there's that level of cutthroatness that person has to have within
Right.
their personality to be in that position.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately that those positions of power, that there's personality tendencies that are very dominant in those kind of people in order to even get there in the first place, because as we've learned and not learned, that there's a dirty game in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
and I don't know, you know what I mean, like it's kind of like how do you change that, how do you fight that when that's how it happens and it continues to happen, and there's these kind of people and they're good at what they do.
Yeah, it's a spectrum.
So it's like
What's the personality type for fighters, you think? Is there one?
I don't know. I always kind of feel like the stereotypical vision of a fighter, I feel like I'm not that, so I feel like that's not it,
There can't.
because I feel like I defy that.
Yeah, there isn't one.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not like, because I would think someone who just likes to be angry and aggressive, and I'm like,
There's a few archetypes, right?
yeah, yeah, and I guess I would say so too. Like for me, I would feel like fighting is a way that I channel that. Well, if you look at people all have that ability to be aggressive, or that instinct to have aggression and to, be competitive. And some people have more or less than, others. And we, as we grow, we find appropriate ways to channel that energy, you know. Some people, it's like their work and they're, bossing it up, and that's how they get that competitive edge because their work brings that to them. Or other people, like they do sports or exercise or do something. And for me, I feel like this is how I just channel that, you know. Some people channel things in different ways, so I don't know. I would love to do a whole little um, that would be a good research question, right? See if we find some common themes of personalities between the fighters
I bet you
to
do.
find the different
Yeah.
archetypes. Yeah, I bet you they will emerge.
I think Dean Thomas was talking about different types of fighters one time, maybe.
Mhm.
You have guys who are like actual fighters, like people who love to fight,
Yeah.
like the Diaz brothers. Like those guys are fucking fighters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have like athletes, like who just like to compete. Like I think Phil Davis is a good example. I think he's
Mhm.
on the top of my mind right now. He's about to fight Julius. He's a fucking
Yeah.
athlete. I think Anthony Johnson talked about that one time. He's like, I'm just an athlete who's really good at knocking people out. He's like, I'm not a fighter.
Yeah.
So like you have like those real. I think I was more of an athletic type too.
Mhm.
You also have like those artists like who are just it's like that's all about like pure expression, and then they just express themselves through this violent form, but it's all about like the martial art form for them.
Yeah.
So you kind of have like that personality type. I think there's like one or
They're
two other ones, but those are the ones that really stick
yeah.
out.
They're very bodily kinesthetic,
Yeah,
just like dancers. Like this is how
exactly.
I express. I express with my body, and just
Yeah,
happen to be a very aggressive thing.
yeah. I'm a good blend of that. I always
Yeah.
look at movement's actually like the first language really any of us learn, like how to
Mm.
move our bodies. But that's the one I relate to the most.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe the first language of movement that I learned was wrestling. So I've always just kind of like whenever I learn a new move, I always kind of almost relate it to wrestling oftentimes. Like someone will say like this is this. I'm like, oh, it's just like this, like relating it back to wrestling.
Mm.
But then as I kind of like analyzed like myself and why I like fighting or like I liked competing, I just realized that I've never really been like a great speaker. I feel like I've kind of gotten better at it, but I've always felt more comfortable just expressing myself through physicality.
Mm.
So like that was my form of expression, like speaking, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. I feel the same. Like as you relate back to wrestling, I relate back to like track and basketball, right? I do the same thing. I relate it back to those bodily mechanical things that I've learned that are just ingrained in me.
Right.
And the art part of it, because I am like more on the, like I am a creative person. I like art. I like the movement. I like dance. And so for me, it's like the blend of both of those things coming together.
Hmm.
So it's like, how do I compose and put together this like graceful masterpiece with my body that
Yeah.
happens to be, a little violent.
Yeah.
Um, but really, I mean, the violence stands out to other people, but I look at it more like, because I really like technique, because it's all about like performing something like, or maneuver, doing a move and doing it very well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's why I get more out of that than
Yeah.
like just like, oh, the gore or whatever. It's like, oh man, I really put together those two pieces and they went together very eloquently, you
Yeah.
know.
Like it looked good. It
I
felt
was
good.
like,
It
oh man,
was.
that was art right there, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
For real.
Yeah, yeah,
Art with your body where you fucking put someone
yeah.
out. You had so much blood on you your last fight. Fucked
Yeah.
old girl up. How good that feel?
Dang. The biggest thing that stands out when I think back to the fight is like my corner telling me 100, 100, and I was like, and it didn't register for me for a little bit because all this time like training, I spend more time training than everything,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always like holding back. I'm always holding back because I'm caring about the safety of my training partners and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So then hearing like 100, it's like, oh, so
Go.
I can just let it go, like, you know, no more reservations. And so everything that came and happened was just like pure, just instinctual.
Yes.
And so that's what felt the greatest about it. Like that fight, I felt like was the first fight where I felt like I was freely just moving.
Yeah.
And
You fell in the flow state.
yeah, I found it. I've been trying to get there, but you know, I think too much, so that
Yeah.
can really, you know,
It,
fuck you up in there.
it will.
So
Every time.
yeah. So I feel like I've had finally gotten to this piece where I am trusting that I know how to react and I know what to do. And hearing the, all right, just go ahead and make it happen. I was like, oh, and it's up on the cage. This is fun. I really wanted it to go longer, but um, I was really, I was really just more so happy about the fact that I was able to get to that point of just being that comfortable and putting things together, and it ended in a way that I wasn't expecting, but hey, I'll take it still.
Yeah.
And then the one time I wore white.
It's memories. Memories,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Man, I used to think that I was an adrenaline junkie until I realized I was always just chasing the flow state. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
God, that's just such a good fucking feeling.
Yeah.
Just everything's clicking.
How do you like, you know, fight in a real fight like you do at training, you know? You know?
Yeah.
Like
How do you
how
do
do you
that?
make sparring like happen right there, cuz that's where the creativity really gets you, you're able to really be creative and let things flow,
Yeah.
you know? And that's when really great shit happens.
Yeah. It's like how
You
do you
know?
relax
Yeah,
and
but
not
still, you know.
overthink?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because you got. I mean, because you got. Obviously, you're thinking,
Yeah.
you're doing things, but you do get to a point to where you're kind of like you're not thinking. Like you have to be intense. I mean, it's an intense situation, but you don't want it to be overwhelming. Like
Right.
you gotta take it in and then just get to a point of like confidence and ease.
Yeah.
That way you can just do.
Yeah, the balance of everything. But yeah, I really feel like the confidence was a big thing of it, cuz a lot of my thinking is just me second guessing myself, or
Mm,
did I do enough, or you know, what could they do? I want to make sure I do this right, and you know, that perfectionist mindset. But then it's like at the end of the day, it's like, look, you know, you got to just believe in what you have, and you know, that's it, and just
yeah,
go have fun. And
that's
you
it.
know, and that's what it turned into. I felt good about it, and I just wanted to have fun. I was fighting at home. I hadn't fought in St. Louis, you know, since like 2016, 2017.
A
So
minute.
yeah, so it felt good to just be like, oh, this is my time, and I know where I'm heading. So when you're like just confident in that this is just, you know, a step in on the ladder to where you're going, like, you don't got to put too much stress on it.
Yeah.
I've been training a lot. I think I know how to fight,
You know how to fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of like, okay, you don't have to think about all of those things.
Mhm.
Just a couple things like, look, keep moving my feet, do the little thing.
Mhm.
You know, the opponent's always gonna show you exactly what's there. So just be ready for it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, man. What's next? Do you know? Do you know what's on the horizon? You got any fights you're looking at?
I'm thinking that they're gonna bring me back on like this spring.
Okay.
Um,
On
that would,
LFA?
yeah, that would be nice.
Where would that be at? Will that be here or
I
somewhere
don't.
else?
I think it may be somewhere else, but it's not for certain or anything right
Mm.
now. But that's kind of been the thing of maybe
Okay.
bringing me back for a couple more fights.
Oh, that'd be cool. Till then, just back to training.
Yeah. So I've been just focusing mostly on jujitsu lately. As of late, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do like a match in March.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I just been, I'm gonna get in, put on a little gi. I
All
haven't
right.
competed in blue belt for ever.
Yeah.
So, and I've had my blue belt for a little while. So I was like, all right, I want to get back to competing.
Yeah, do that. What would that be on?
Was it Fuji?
On Fuji's?
Yeah.
Nice.
For, it's in Springfield.
Fuji World Pro? Is that what they're
Yeah.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be dope. Springfield?
Yeah.
Nice. Did you go to the tournament this weekend? Did you check
Uh,
it out?
I didn't get to go. No.
I just went and said hi to people. There's so many people that you know in the scene.
Yeah.
God, it's such a small community.
Yeah.
But that's what's up. Well, Brittney, we'll wrap this up. How long do you think we've been going?
I don't know. For sure over an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, like an hour and a half, a little over. Hour 40 here. Dope. How can people check you out?
You can find me on social media, Instagram, The Quiet Storm _MMA. My Facebook page is the same, The Quiet Storm MMA. Twitter, Quiet Storm MMA. I'm on all those things. I do have a YouTube channel now.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I've had it for a while.
You using it now, though?
Yeah, I've been pouring all of my my videos and my fights and my content on there.
Pouring. I almost thought you said
Yeah,
pouring all my fight.
Got some other
Porn,
exclusive content.
all my fights.
So yeah. So check out my YouTube channel. You can subscribe. That would be nice. Same thing. The Quiet Storm, Brittney Cloudy. So yeah.
Dope. Well, Brittney, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.